well, sorry, last week, I guess it was, I contacted Genome Alberta and asked them for an update on expected timelines for the next call. And we had 2 or 3 emails back, and they graciously suggested that Niall could come and give us an update on where things are with regard to the next project. So I didn't contact Patrick, but I thought certainly Genome Alberta could do a lot better job than Patrick and I could on giving you our impression of where things were at the last meeting we were at. So thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'll just briefly rifle through a few slides here that we have going, and some upcoming funding opportunities that will be of particular interest to this group here. So changing gears a little bit from the more interesting part of research to the more boring part, applying for funding. So I guess the main topic of the discussion is an upcoming call for Genome Canada's LSARP program, which is the Large Scale Applied Research Project competition. So this is their sort of flagship program that they run on a yearly basis, changes themes every year. We're just wrapping up one in human health and gearing up for the one in 2018 that will be focused once again on agriculture and agri-food. So the previous competition in the LSARP in the agri-food sector was in 2014, which I think some of you around the table were quite heavily involved in projects from that one. So the 2018 competition hasn't been sort of publicly announced yet, so it's still, the details are still being finalized and worked out. So everything in this slide presentation here is still subject to change, but this is kind of the latest details that we have on it. We're expecting the program to launch in June 2018, so summertime. The funding available, we're looking at a minimum of $30 million available from Genome Canada. Depending on which partners they're able to partner with in the country, it could be more than that. They're going to aim to have a co-funding ratio of about 1-to-1, which is a little bit different than in the past, where I think it was a bit closer to 2-to-1. But that should make it easier on researchers applying for funding here. So some of the parameters for this particular program, Genome Canada will invest a maximum of $4 million in an individual project. Projects can be greater than sort of $8 million, so long as the 1-to-1 co-funding ratio is satisfied. Projects in this program will be awarded funding for a term of up to 4 years. And then just some sort of general stipulations around Genome Canada funding in general. The funds can only be awarded to Canadian post-secondary institutions or affiliated research institutes, not-for-profit organizations, or Canadian non-federal government departments or agencies. But that doesn't mean that sort of industry and international collaborators can't participate on these projects. So again, the 2018 LSARP Genomics in Agriculture and Agri-Food. The general theme will be to support projects that have sort of direct or indirect impacts on Canada's agriculture and agri-food sector, sort of addressing challenges and opportunities related to global food security, safety, and sustainable production. And so it is an applied competition, so focused on the application of genomic data sets to the industry rather than solely sort of the generation of genomic data sets. Here is just some brief examples of projects that could be eligible topic areas under this call. And sort of the main focus of the I guess projects in this competition does have to be on production systems and not on human health. Although food safety, as it relates to the value chain, is an eligible area. So for those of you that may not be familiar with how Genome Canada and its sort of co-funding model works, here is just a brief snapshot of what a project could look like and sort of the budget breakdown of a particular project in this competition. So again, 50% of the project would come from Genome Canada, and that would be in cash. And the remaining 50% can be sourced through a variety of different co-funding sources that are eligible for the competition. So the main ones that aren't eligible under Genome Canada are the Tri-Council funding agencies, so the NSERCs and CHRs and SHRCs. Other than that, provincial granting agencies, industry, cash, international collaborators that may have funding for research activities on their own side that may be contributing towards the activities and deliverables in the Genome Canada project could be considered co-funding towards the overall budget. So there's a sort of a complete list of eligible and ineligible sources on Genome Canada's website. So for the process of this competition, and so this is kind of the rough timelines that we're going to be looking at for this one. So if we're looking at a June 2018 launch for the competition, the first step will be a registration to the competition, which is just a simple kind of one-page summary of the research project and proposal. This is used to gauge a project's eligibility to the competition and help Genome Canada out with sort of reviewer selection and stuff. So there'll be no sort of formal scientific review or screening of the applications at that time. They do publish the high-level titles and sort of keywords from registrations across the country, so you can get a sense of who else is doing what in the competition, with the idea to encourage collaboration and sort of merging of similar project ideas across the country. The second stage in the competition is the pre-application. So this is a shorter application, about 14, 15 pages, so with a brief budget. It's reviewed by an international review committee who will then select sort of the highest ranked proposals to then submit a full application. So the pre-application will likely go in sometime in November, and then they'll do their deliberations over the December and Christmas holidays and let us know sometime in early January who's going forward. And then it'll be full gears into writing the full application for the competition. So this is a longer application, about 30 pages, much more detailed budget. And it also includes a face-to-face interview with Genome Canada's review panel. And so the interviews for this will likely happen sometime in May, with the applications going in just ahead of time in April. And again, this is reviewed by an international review committee who will then make the final decisions on funding sometime in June 2019. At the applications that make it to the full application stage, it's about a 50% chance of success. So it's pretty good. They tend to do a good job of triaging people up front to keep that high success rate in the end. So just some requirements for the competition, and for those of you who may not be familiar with Genome Canada competitions, there's a requirement for an integrated GELS component. So this is sort of the genomics-related ethical, environmental, economic, legal, and societal research that aims to address the barriers to adoption of particular genomic technologies. So it's a requirement for projects to have integrated GELS research activities that are informing the science, and vice versa, the science informing the GELS research component. Again, the involvement of end users in the research plan definitely helps demonstrate uptake. And of course, priority will be given to projects that are able to describe the deliverables that will be realized by the end of the project, and also within a short time, as short of a time frame as possible afterwards. So some items of success that we've seen in the past, that projects should consider collaboration with international institutions, so linking into sort of international consortia or international data sets in particular fields, crossing all sorts of academic institutions not only across Alberta, but across the country as well. And also making use of Genome Canada's technology platforms. So these are the large sequencing centers and metabolomics facilities that Genome Canada is already funding. So just some ways that industry can be involved and benefit in this particular program. They can be involved by providing co-funding, either cash or in-kind. In-kind support is valued to the same degree as cash in these projects. They can become a part of an end-user advisory committee, and they can also become part of the research team as full-on co-applicants on these applications. And so some of the benefits to industry, I won't go through them all, but I think So companies can kind of have a front seat to some of the technology that's being developed, and also able to negotiate sort of a benefit sharing agreement depending on their contributions to the projects. And so for Genome Canada competitions, our organization, Genome Alberta, we're not the ones that are making the final funding decisions. So in that regard, we are quite invested in seeing our researchers be successful and receive funding. So we're a bit of a sort of a facilitator for applicants that are interested in applying to Genome Canada. And we provide a suite of support, including workshops, strategic planning exercises, stakeholder meetings, particularly with co-funding entities in the province. We have good relationships with the provincial government and the various departments. We'll provide some friendly external review on the proposals that are being developed, some sort of a practice interview for the Genome Canada one. And we'll also provide some financial contributions and support to the application development to cover things such as recruiting external writing or coordination support, or if you need to fly in team members for project meetings, stuff like that. Those are things that we'll be able to cover. And so that pretty much sums it up for the LSARP program. The other one I just wanted to briefly mention here, as we do have some industry folks that may be, that this would be particularly interest to, is the Genomics Applications Partnership Program, or GAP as we call it. So compared to the LSARP, it's a lot more focused on downstream R&D and sort of the application and commercialization and implementation of genomic technologies. It's sort of pitched as a true end user academic partnership. And with this particular program, there is up to $2 million available from Genome Canada. There's a 2-to-1 co-funding requirement. They've recently changed this program to a rolling intake. It's about a 6-month process from the application of a expression of interest to the decision for funding. So if anybody in the room wants more information on that particular program, there's a few people in here who have gone through the process of that program as well, so they'd be good brains to pick as well. So if anybody has any questions on the Genome Canada programs before the discussion starts, I'd be happy to answer some of them.
All right. Questions?
So with the gels component,
yeah.
Can that be found out to, say, private organisations, some of these people that do, professional organisations that do survey work? I can't think of the name of the company.
Yeah, I'd say components of it could be, but the general research activities should be driven by investigators at institutes, but definitely the service components can definitely be recruited out to service providers. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, certainly. I guess another item to note on the gels, fully standalone gels projects are eligible under this program. So if there are gels questions that are big enough to warrant sort of a multi-million-dollar investigation solely focusing on the gels aspects, that's eligible project right there.
In the previous round, there was coordinated Alberta Livestock Genomics program.
Yeah.
Is there anything on the horizon that's going to be similar, or
we're I mean, it's a bit of a project. Worked closely with Alma to get that one going. Of course, they kind of got sold up into Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. We're in discussions with them to see if we can get some sort of, I wouldn't say it'll be an ALGP-like thing, but there will be some additional financial support to projects. I think with the timeline coming up on this competition, sort of investing in pilot scale research projects probably wouldn't be the best use of the funds right now, but we are working.
In Ontario, they're doing a bit. Train testing, research as well. Same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Less money than Alma had.
And maybe similar to what Bob was asking, because Genome Alberta had a dedicated amount of funds for each project as well will be a similar model as last time.
Hopefully, yeah, that's the goal. So we have to go back to the provincial government for each competition and sort of talk to the various departments. But for each of the previous competitions, we've been able to secure some dedicated co-funding from the province for Alberta applicants and Alberta projects. Historically, it's been enough to cover about 25% of Alberta-based activities, so that can be kind of a good rule of thumb to keep in mind going forward.
Any other questions at this point? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be around tonight and for most of the day tomorrow if anybody wants some more information or wants to chat.
Okay, thank you very much.